Hello, and welcome back to Learning Guitar. This is episode 4, let's say. Um, First of all, I hope you're doing okay, given the circumstances, and that you managed to put some practice in. At the same time, I'm pretty sure for those of you a little bit more disciplined about it and, doing all the exercises that I'm somehow suggesting in order for us to move from an ABC where we know a scale, then learning some words, which are kind of all the exercises you find in the PDF, and then kind of recombine them with your own taste and developing phrases, right? That's why these lessons are kind of divided in discussing the theory of it, then look how to practice it, but then also some playing. As I said, for those of you that might have spent a little bit of time on these things, you might be hopefully starting to notice a couple of things. Maybe the quality of your phrasing is slowly improving in terms that there is more vocabulary you're taking from in it. And also like maybe the personality of your phrasing. And by that I mean, because you're not really studying licks as such, whatever is coming out of your playing during your playing sections is actually yours. I mean, it's the result of your personal taste. During the first 3 lessons, you've been practicing intervals. You've been practicing very many different combinations of the way we can play intervals, triads, extended triads, groupings, and maybe you added to that. We looked at many arpeggios. And of course, we looked at the way we can also play chords in the shape of E. So, of course, at the moment, that language is confined within the shape of E. Fair enough. But I'm also sure that if I asked all of you to kind of film 1 minute of you playing over a shape of E chord, I'm pretty sure that all of you will actually sound different from each other. Not only from a point of view of the sound of the guitar, but the way you phrase. Because when you're practicing intervals, some of them kind of stick with you. As in, your ears seems to like them more than others. I mean, it's kind of normal, I would say. Now, I have nothing against learning guitar by learning licks from other people. I mean, it's like analyzing other guitar players is a very, very important thing. To develop muscle training, so playing licks over and over, that I'm kind of less sure, but it's a personal opinion. I mean, it's for as much as I love other guitar players, I like the guitar as an instrument to be creative, your own man kind of thing, or your own woman with it. So I tend to analyze licks because I like to understand how other people think on the guitar, but maybe I don't tend to practice them that much. I'd rather, trying to learn the language and then, create my own phrasing. And of course, we all listen to music probably from longer than we play guitar. So of course, in our playing, somehow the influences kind of come out. It's not that suddenly we're going to reinvent the wheel. But as I said, if you practiced and with a certain discipline, probably in time you'll notice these two phenomena. So your language kind of becomes a little bit has more variety to it, and on the other side, there is a personality to it. That it's your personal taste. Okay. And now, let's move on. We dealt with the shape of E. Originally, I thought that lesson 4 was going to be about some creative exercising, but I realized that probably discussing that once we've dealt with all the shapes is actually a better idea. So we're actually moving on with the shapes, and this time we start discussing shape of D. Just to quickly recap what we've done in the first 3 lessons, we looked at the shape of E. Okay, so it looks like an E major, and the guitar is a transposing instrument, blah, 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 blah. This time we're looking at shape of D. So again, we have our imaginary barré kind of here, and if this is D, this is E flat, E, F, F sharp, and G. Now, let me stop there 1 second. I could go on and on. Because now we have, since we practiced the first 3 lessons, we kind of practiced them in G. Now you can see that there is an horizontal evolution. This is G. Also, this is G. And this lesson is a little bit of a cornerstone, and it's actually quite an important lesson. I developed 21 pages of a PDF with exercises, and not because the shape of these particularly important, it's just that what's going to come out of as evolving is a series of considerations. And, I don't want to try and put too much meat on the barbecue all at the same time, but the fact that now we're starting to have multiple shapes, it kind of means 2 things, among others, right? First, then the guitar develops in a vertical way. What I mean by that is that within, say, 5 frets, we can possibly play every chord you can think of, every scale you can think of, every arpeggio you can think of. We theoretically would not need to go anywhere else, just here, okay? Let's say, for example, in this case, and at the moment we're gonna only manage 2 shapes, but let's say for the exercises I decided to use a progression that goes A flat major into F major, because I like that kind of interval. It's got a nice sound. So that means that we can develop chords without moving, really, okay? And that means that we have everything, and when I say everything, I literally mean everything, under our fingertips, okay? It's not unusual, say if we have a song that goes C major, E flat, very often you see this kind of stuff, where you have a C major and then suddenly E flat is up there, okay? And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, fair enough, it's got a nice sound, but of course, that kind of leap, at least I have to look at the guitar when that's happening, And a lot of people seems to forget that there is an E flat right there, okay? Why? Because this is D, so this is E flat. Now, of course, if we play this particular chord because we like the sound of it better, again, nothing wrong with that. But if we play it because we don't know it's right here, then it's a different matter, okay? So we have this vertical execution on the guitar, okay? Where we can play every chord without going anywhere. But we also have an horizontal evolution on the guitar. And, well, imagine a piano player, okay? He's got 8 octaves. But imagine that this piano player is only playing in the middle. And there is no reason for that. The guitar's got 3 octaves and a half. Just playing here means not exploiting it. Okay, so we have 3 octaves and a half, so we also move horizontally. Of course, the guitar is also got a peculiarity where we can play the same notes in multiple places, hence we get a different timbre, okay, different sonics, because of course the strings, they get thicker. So, like, say, see how the tone gets darker and darker because the strings are getting thicker, okay? So this is definitely thinner, and this is definitely darker. We can do that, piano player, like 1 note in 1 place. So we have this kind of being able to exploit different timbre according to where we play things, but also we have 3 octaves and a half. Some guitars, this extends a little bit more, so like it's got 4 octaves, I think actually, I'm not even sure. Anyway, 3 octaves and 3/4 or something. And so, like, yeah, we want to use what we have. Eventually, we don't want to just leap around the guitar because we don't have something under our fingertips. We want to extend because we want to play all 3 octaves and a half. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So now our studies are taking kind of 2 directions at the same time. That's why I say this is a little bit of a cornerstone, because now we're going to study vertically on the guitar. So we're going to study progression like, say, A flat into F, and we have a bunch of exercises for that. But also we're looking into moving in the same key horizontally on the guitar. So a bunch of exercises which are just in G, like they used to. And to that we're going to add. So in other words, we're going to be able to play all the chords without going anywhere, or the same chord across the entire guitar. Okay? And that's 2 directions. That's why the PDF is a bit more, it's got more exercises in it in a way. Also, and you will see, we'll look at it when we look at the theory in a second, the connection of the 2 shapes, so this connection also brings into the game what I call a 3-note per strings kind of playing, and I'll explain it to you in the theory and in the PDF, right? And so that's the 3rd kind of direction this is taking all at the same time. So the only reason, so I say this is a little bit of a cornerstone, is not because the shape of D is particularly important, okay? But it's just at the moment we start connecting shapes, now more topics comes into play. And I think they're worth both discussing and practicing a little bit, okay? Because there are good things that can come out of all of them. But now I think you understood that I'm not particularly fixated with a system, so like just the cage system or 3 notes per string kind of thing, or in position from the root. I think all of them has got advantages and disadvantages. Advantages and disadvantages. And I tried personally just to get the best I can get of them. So I find that when it comes to scale, so practicing the intervals, triads, and all this kind of stuff we've done in lesson 1, somehow is kind of can be well done within the cage system. So 5 shapes, we're studying. But sometimes some picking techniques or some pattern playing or runs, as you will see, might be dealt also nicely by a 3 notes per strings approach. In terms of ear training, doing arpeggios from the root really helps. So anyway, a lot combination, a lot of stuff. Should we discuss the theory? So yeah, shape of D. So this is definitely we're just posing it. We're gonna look at it under 2 point of views. Okay, in the exercises on the PDF, it's gonna be in F most of the exercises. Okay, so that we develop some vertical playing. But also we're going to look at it from the point of view of same key. That's G, that's G, that's F sharp, that's F sharp, that's F, that's F. Okay. Now, before we go, the kind of difficulty, if there is any, in visualizing this shape is that most guitar player, seems to me, visualize the guitar from the top, obviously, because that's the first thing we see. So like our root notes, we tend to see them on the first string and the second string, okay? Now this particular shape has its root note on the 3rd string, okay? In fact, that's the D in the bass, okay? So in a way, when we're playing this shape, that's our root note, is right there, okay? In a way, studying the E shape is a little bit easier because that's where our root note is, and we tend to visualize them quite quickly. So we know that's C, okay, because that's C, or we know this is A because this note is A, or this is F because this note is F. We tend to struggle a little bit more in visualizing this as a G, this as an F, this as an A, and I can go on. Try and avoid the visualization, by octaves. What I mean by that is you're trying to get A in the shape of D, and you look at this guy first. From this guy, you deduce this guy, so it's octave, and then you have your shape. Again, you want to try and avoid this, the brain having to do 2 steps before it gets to where it has to go, okay? Hopefully the exercises will help anyway when we look at the chords, which I guess if this is episode 4, 5, we're going to look at the arpeggios, and 6, we're going to look at the chords, okay? So this is our shape, this is our scale. Okay, let's look at the theory. So in terms of theory, there is not much that needs to be really said that we didn't really say in the first lesson. So if this is the first time you come across one of my videos, I suggest that you kind of start from the beginning and you look at lesson 1. Because in a way the theory is exactly the same. What changed is the shape. Obviously, we're still dealing with the onion, so a scale that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then when we do the arpeggios, again, we'll have a vertical stretcher. Now, what we need to understand that obviously the intervals, the numbers, they change the position, and also the fingerings that change the position. I just wrote it twice so that you can actually see where the D shape is, okay? And as I said, it's important that we learn how to visualize this root note as a reference, okay, to build our chords, especially in the future. Now, what also is important to discuss is this. Let me see if it's in focus. Yes. So the vertical and horizontal view. Here I combined both shapes, okay, so you can see how we're extending across the neck. Let's imagine this is a G note. Let's say that this is fret number 3. Now we have our shape of E that we studied in lesson 1, okay? But also we have our shape of D, which is what we're studying now. And we can see how they connect to each other, okay? If you want, this is a good time when you want to pause the video eventually and kind of write it down yourself. It always helps your brain. From the point of view of photographic memory, as I said, this is relevant to us in developing a D shape like this, and this is relevant to us in developing an E shape, okay? And these are the connection. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, we're looking at a practice that involves us moving across shapes in one area of the neck, and we're going to learn how to do that. But also maybe staying in the same key, the exercise is going to be G, and moving horizontally on the neck. Also, if you look at this horizontal view, we also see how we can apply an approach, so-called 3 notes per string. And in the PDF, I discussed where some advantages can be in also exploring that possibility, but from at least for now, 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3. That's 3 notes per string. Or 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4. So just by combining these two shapes horizontally, we also get 2 shapes, let's call it them away, defined in 3 notes per string. In fact, I kind of wrote them here. Let's see. That should do it. Okay. So the fact that we can take so many different directions at this point because we're combining shapes, we have a practice that has been done in 3 possible ways, okay? And you'll see it in the PDF, and that's the reason the PDF is 21 pages, okay? So, first of all, we can practice just the shape. In this case, the shape of D. Exactly the same way we did with the shape of E. So the first 9 pages of the PDF are going to be dedicated with that. We're still doing just the shape of E, intervals, triads, extended triads, and so forth and so on. But also we're going to start practicing across shapes. So we're going to stay just in a section of the guitar and just move, in this case, from A flat to F. So from a shape of E to a shape of D. But also, if that was not enough, we're going to practice horizontally on the neck. So we're going to stay in G and move on the neck from the shape of E to the shape of D. And to this practice, we'll also include the 3 notes per string approach. So, and here it's what the PDF looks like. So the first part, so from page 1 to page 9, is exactly kind of a carbon copy of what we did for the shape of E in the first lesson. It's just that, of course, now this is a different shape, different finger patterns. I wrote this in the key of F. You'll see later on why that's useful. And as I say, the first 9 pages you're dealing with the scale, obviously with the intervals, second, thirds, fourths, fifths, all the way to the octaves, performed in 4 different ways. Reversed, alternate A, alternate B, etc. If you've done lesson 1, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me move forward. Then you have, of course, the triads and extended triads, and the usual groupings of 3 and 4. Once you reach page 9, I'll actually felt the need of leaving some notes on the actual PDF in case I'm not being clear enough in the video. So the following exercises can help in facilitating the vertical transition across shapes. In this case, shape of E major, and we're using A flat, to shape of D major, and we're using F. Okay, so now you see the continuity why I decided to do it in F as opposed to in G. What's happening here, you are going up in A flat, so up using shape of E, and then back using F. Okay, so you're going from the first shape we started to the second shape we started. Here is the same but inverted. You're going down in F, you're going up in F and down in A flat. Here is the same exercise, and these are very important, where we're moving across scale every bar, and I use 8 notes because this will help you transitioning from a shape to another, say on the 3rd strings, on the 4th strings, or on the 5th strings. And that's very important because when we're playing, we're not changing keys just on the E strings, if that makes any sense. Okay, so here we're changing scale, we're changing shape every 8 notes. Okay, same thing here, it's just that we're starting from F and then going to A flat. Here is the same thing, and we are changing key every 4 notes. So it gets a little bit more complicated, okay? All the way to changing key every 2 notes. Now, this is kind of pushing it, if you ask me, but especially for those interested in jazz fusion, I mean, like music that has a lot of chords and key changes within 1 bar, that's the kind of exercise also that you want to approach in a way. So, as I said, I like discussing guitar and 360 degrees independently from the genre. This is very useful, say pop music. This doesn't really happen that often in pop music, but let's expand our language, okay? And as I said, you don't have to do everything at the same time. Take out of this what you think you can use first and then explore the rest. Of course, if that was not enough, these particular patterns need to be studied also via intervals, triads, the usual thing. So we need to learn how to change key, how to change shapes, pretty much anywhere across the guitar. So here are your interval of seconds. In A flat for 1 bar, then in F for 1 bar, then in A flat for 1 bar. So again, you keep changing from one shape to another, back and forth. To avoid 70 pages of a PDF, I just did the case where you're moving every 8 notes, okay? But I didn't do the same that I did here, where now you're moving every 4, or every 2, or every 2 bars. Otherwise, this PDF would have been millions of pages. I think like every 1 bar is a good compromise. Sorry. Especially in terms of you being forced of changing shapes. Say here is on the 2nd string. Now you're changing shape on the 3rd string. Now you're changing shape on the 4th string. Okay, that's a very good practice. I cannot stress that enough. So I wrote a PDF, I wrote exercises here where you're doing the same thing. Interval thirds reversed, alternate A, all the intervals are the same thing you've kind of done in the first lesson and in the first 8 pages of this PDF, but now it's applied to I'm changing shape, okay? For those of you that have more time in their hands and they really want to be very disciplined about this, you should also try starting from F and going to A flat. I wrote it down here. Do the same exercise and follow. And the following ones also starting from F major. So the first 8 notes here will be the shape of D, and then it goes into the shape of E, and then D, and then E. After all the intervals, again, these are all the intervals, then you have triads, extended triads, group of 3, group of 4s, and always changing every 1 bar, okay? Some of these exercises are easier than others. Of course, like larger intervals are harder to play than, say, intervals of seconds and thirds, okay? Now, at page 18, instead, you have the exercises devoted to practice the same key. In this case, I use G, the 2 shapes, the transition in between, the horizontal transition on the guitar. So you're just basically going from G in the shape of E major to G in the shape of D. So this is going to be fret 3, this is going to be fret 5, okay? And you have exercises. This is just a scale up in the shape of E, down in the shape of D, and vice versa, okay? Also, and I'll show it to you when we do the practice, I'll show it to you on video. Also, like, these are exercises devoted to you transitioning from one shape to another, not just on the E string, but on the 2nd string, on the 3rd string, 4th string, and 5th string. This is the same thing applied to intervals of seconds, and as I said, in the future I'll show you also how to apply this to all the other intervals. Last but not least, we discussed the 3 notes per string approach and the 2 shapes that we can derive from connecting what we learned so far. So here are a few exercises that you can do. It's just very basic. It's up and down, but 3 notes per string. I left some notes here. Read them. In particular, I wrote, I'm aware it's a lot of work to apply this methodology to all intervals, triads, and groupings, so take your time in building this type of muscle memory. In the meanwhile, we can also notice, by connecting the 2 shapes, the emergence of the so-called 3 notes per string shapes, which can also be interesting to study and dissect given the possible advantages they present in terms of right-hand picking pattern and legato exercises. But I mean, when we have 3 notes per string, there is a consistency in the way we can create a consistency in the way we pick with our right hand, or we use legato, or sweep picking, or economy picking, you name it. And because of that consistency, it can be interesting to also study this particular approach. Now, the 3 notes per string involve a certain degree of left hand stretching, as you will notice. So make sure you don't push too hard in terms of technique and speed, in particular if you're practicing legato, without warming up first, as to avoid possible injuries. When we're doing stretched kind of material, especially legato, okay, I cannot stress enough, the last thing you want to do is to get an injury out of that, okay? So make sure you warm up, and you don't have to play, you don't have to practice fast, okay? Here are 2 basic, runs up and down. Of course, all the intervals, triads, and grouping exercises can be applied to the 3 notes per string shape, and there is scope for further studies here. If that is interesting, I encourage you to write tabs which accommodate this technique. What I mean is, like, if you are somebody who uses 3 notes per strings a lot, and personally I'm not one of them, I'll be honest with you, but you might want to develop all your triads, all the intervals, all the exercises we've done so far to accommodate these finger patterns, okay? Like the 3 notes per string kind of approach. The 3 notes per string approach, given its geometry and right-hand picking consistency, is also very suitable for pattern playing. And you'll see in a second when you do these exercises what I mean by that. Here are a few examples, but bear in mind there are many, many more. And this is an area particularly explored in heavy metal and all its subgenre, although not only. 3 notes per string is something that I think Frank Gambale uses a lot in fusion playing, so it's not exclusive. I'm just saying a lot of this pattern playing and 3 notes per strings is, to my knowledge, very much explored, very well explored in metal and all its subgenres. So a quick internet research will highlight them. So you're going to find plenty of interesting exercises that you can apply to a 3 notes per string approach. You don't need me to write all of them. Actually, that would be impossible. but I just wanted to create some to give you an idea of what I mean by pattern playing, okay? As usual, there is also scope here for you to create your own exercises and patterns. A postscriptum, I'm writing the examples in 16 notes to save PF space, pretty much. It's already 21 pages. But more importantly, because playing quarter notes 8 and 16s as opposed to triplets, because when you play 3 notes per strings, the tendency is to practice them in triplets, okay? And obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but bear in mind that not just in the 3 notes per string approach, in general, playing 8 notes and 16 notes when you're doing group of 3 shifts the strong accents around, and you end up with very interesting pattern just because of that. So in other words, what I'm saying is, like, if you're doing group of 3, try and play them in 8 notes or 16 notes or quarter notes. But if you're doing group of 4, and with groupings, by the way, you might want to try that in triplets, okay? But at some point in the future, we'll do an entire lesson on rhythmic exercises, and maybe we'll dig into that even further. So these are some pattern I wrote. I don't think they're original by any means. Some of them, like this, for example, was very, very interesting, and I'll show it to you later on. And again, I wrote, I think, like a couple of pages of it. Yeah, here is some more pages. And some, there is potential for some interesting sweeping exercises, like this one too. There is scope for string skipping. As I say, the fact that you have right hand consistency kind of makes this kind of stuff slightly easier than if you try and use shape of E and shape of D like we know them, for the simple fact that, as you noticed, there is inconsistency, let's put it that way, in the way they are fingered. So you have certain strings with 3 notes, certain strings with 2. There is consistency of having 3 notes on each string. Personally, I still think it's very good to do it the way we're doing it, because in the relationship that we have created, if you remember in lesson 1, 2, and 3, in between chords, arpeggios, and scales, the visualization of the chords, scales, and arpeggios, the photographic memory that we've been discussing, kind of happens better in that context. So when you look at shape of E, by now you see the chord, you see the scale, and you see the arpeggio. And the same thing is going to happen with the shape of D. The 3 notes per string sometimes it kind of blurs the line, where it's great for scales to a certain extent, and I said it can be great for many things. Sometimes it's harder to see the chords within, okay? Nevertheless, as you can see, it's a lot of work, and now let me show you how we can practice all this stuff. So now let's look at how to practice all this material. As I say, it's kind of a lot in a way. It's 21 pages of it, but with a little bit of organization, and as I said, we don't have to do it all at the same time. Add some words a little bit at a time. But before we even start, we need to address but I think it's a problem that all guitarists kind of share, including myself. We often ask ourselves, as we're approaching new material to practice, like in this case, shape of D, what happens to the stuff before? Do we stop practicing that? And if we put this on top of that, how long is our practice going to be? 10 hours just, a day just to cover all this stuff. And as I said, this is something that a lot of guitar players ask themselves how to deal with this. And the way I like to deal with it, I'll explain it to you. It's my way of doing it. You might have a different way. This is not the best way to do this. But if you remember in lesson 1, I suggested that you practiced everything ascending, descending, and then chromatically. So just as a reminder, if we were practicing the scale, we would go... and then moving chromatically, right? And the reason we did that is so that we could develop two kind of memories. A muscle one, so a muscle memory, because we keep repeating the same finger pattern kind of over and over. And also a photographic one, because as we're moving across, our eyes are also visualizing where things are, in particular keys. And in the case of the shape of E, the fact that the root note is on the top string kind of helps. So by now we should know that if this is C, that's the Ionian scale that goes with it, and that's our arpeggios from left to 2. The first 8 pages of the PDF for the shape of D are pretty much exactly the same as with shape of E. Of course, it's a new shape, different finger patterns, but the sequence is the same. You have the scale, you have the intervals, triads, extended triads, and groupings. So no point maybe right now for me to demonstrate that again, as already demonstrated it in the first video, so we avoid making a too longer video, and we can discuss now the second part of the PDF and how to approach that. But how do we do that without forgetting what we've done first? Well, at this point, maybe like your muscle memory for shape of E starts to be slightly developed, more developed, and the same can be done with can be said in terms of muscle memory. So my suggestion is that for the old studies, so shape of E, lesson 1, 2, and 3, maybe you stop going up and down chromatically, because of course, like when you do that for each exercise, obviously it takes a lot of time. And you just focus on only one key per day, and you use that maybe as a warm-up exercise before doing new stuff. So in a way that keeps those studies fresh as we move forward. So let's say that, we're starting practicing now, okay? And, okay, let's take A, shape of E, and we just run the scale. Use, of course, the metronomic speed that fits. Use a slow metronome, possibly 70 BPM as usual is a good start. You can obviously play faster if you achieved more fluency. Just bear in mind, if you keep seeing recurring mistakes, what I mean is like mistakes that happen in the same spot all the time, that's an habit. So slow down, get a better habit, get a new habit, a good one, and then move forward in terms of speed. So we do the scale, then maybe we practice, we start the intervals, seconds, and so forth and so on. Maybe we do, we do them all, I mean like thirds. Fourths. Fifths. Sixths. Sevenths. Octaves. Of course, like down, up, and as you know by now, reversed, alternate, so say for example as triads, we can do it alternate A. And so forth and so on. I don't want to execute the entire exercises again as I did in week one, in lesson 1. Because otherwise this video is going to be hours long, okay? And I know, that it's hard. Anyway, everything is on the PDF, so I just want to explain you the logic of it, Same thing again, a group of 4, like extended triads, sorry. Back and, descending, group of 3, maybe reversed. Group of 4. See, never talking about this at the same time. There you go. Here's your muscle memory at work. Sorry. So, course, if this is the first time that you come across one of my videos on the subject of guitar, and there is no many, but anyway, just the fourth one. But I suggest you start from the first one. Don't start from this one as the first in the introduction, and then the exercises and so forth and so on. Kind of gives you the logic of what we're doing and what we're doing it in a certain way. So you can practice this PDF without having seen anything, but you might not get the logic of it, and the entire point of all this is you getting the logic of it so that you can study by yourself. Right? Anyway, lesson 4 goes with lesson 1. There we were dealing with this scale, and with this shape of E, and the scale that went with it, and now we're dealing with shape of D. In this case, I'm doing it in F, the first part, but now we can finally discuss from page 9 onwards. Page 9 on the PDF deals with us shifting shapes when we're playing, okay? Some songs all resolve around one single key, great, which means that no matter what the chord progression, we can just run one single scale, arpeggios and so forth. And that's the case with some pop music. I mean, it's not unusual, let's put it that way. But sometimes we need to change key within an arrangement, And so let's learn how to do it without having to do that for no reason, okay? In this case, I picked up a very simple progression. So A flat in the shape of E and F in the shape of D. And the reason I did that is because it's a nice progression, simple, but... I mean, I don't know, sounded good to me. You could have done something else, okay? For as long as we're going from one shape to the other. That's the entire point, okay? And if we do it every 2 bars in 8 notes, it means that you are ascending in one shape, descending to the other. I'm going to show you with a metronome. Again, very slow, 70 BPM. Let's see. So I'm going to go A flat, F. That's all A flat, F. A flat. Okay, and you do this down, up, and move chromatically, so that you photographic memory, you start seeing the other keys. So let's say, for example, we're starting from A flat. I'll do it slightly faster, okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, F, A, F sharp, B flat, keep doing that because you start remembering where all these chords are, what they are. So this is A, for example, this is C, and so forth and so on. The second exercise is the same thing, but this time we're starting from F, we're ascending in F and descending in E flat. That changes the finger pattern, so we might as well practice that too. I'll show you once. 1, 2, 3. This is all F. A flat. F. So maybe do it twice or 4 times before you move it chromatically, okay? Whatever you feel comfortable. A flat. F sharp. Root note. A. You keep doing that. Now the exercises become slightly faster in terms of not tempo, but how often do you change key? How often do you switch from A flat to F? The exercise we switch every bar, so every 8 notes. And it's important that we do these kind of things because when we're actually playing, we're changing key whenever the chord is changing. It's not that we're always going to change on the last or on the first string, Okay? Actually, most of the time, we'll end up changing somewhere in second string, third string, fourth string, right in the middle. That's what I mean. So these kind of exercises are designed for you to be able to move from one shape to another anywhere, pretty much. Okay? And that's why there are so many of them, so that you really get used to it. And it's important. That's why I say this lesson is kind of a cornerstone, because it's opening up to these kind of things. And these are the very important stuff. Okay? So let's see what this looks like. 3, 4, A flat, F, A flat. See how it's changing in the middle? F, A flat, F, A flat, F. And once again, you'll have the reversed version. So you're starting in F, F, A flat, F, A flat. Right? Then it becomes, the third exercise is actually scale 3 and scale 4 on the PDF are more designed for those of you that in the longer term, or maybe not yet, or maybe some of you already are interested in genre, maybe like jazz fusion. I mean, the kind of genre where you have a lot of key changes in the same bar, 2 chords in a bar, 4 chords in a bar with key changes, okay? So in this case, scale 3, we're changing shape every 4 notes, so every alpha bar. And look like this, 3, 4, F, A flat, F, A flat, F, A flat, F. Okay? And scale 4 changes 4 times key in a bar, okay? It's a bit of a stream. As I said, you don't have to practice everything. Start from what you think you're actually going to use. These kind of exercises then can obviously be applied to all your interval studies. It should be done, okay? Because we don't really necessarily solo always kylically, if you see what I'm saying. So say like you take seconds, and we do exactly the same thing. In the PDF, our road changes every bar, okay? Not every 2 bars. So that you're forced, as I say, to change in the middle, as opposed to at the extremes, okay? So say if it was seconds, it looks like this. A flat, F, A flat, F, A flat, F, A flat, F. Right? And in the PDF you'll find thirds. I mean, as in the first part of the PDF, thirds reversed, alternate A, alternate B, third, fourths, all the way to octaves, triads, group of 4s, extended triads, and group of 3. Say for example, group of 3 is still same strategy. I mean, let's do it. I don't know, maybe reversed. A flat, F, A flat, F, A flat, Now, when it comes to page, let me see, 18. Now we're looking at horizontal playing. again, a bunch of exercises designed. Let me move the measurement for a second. A bunch of exercises designed for you to use different shapes, but in the same key. So in this case, you have G in the shape of E and G in the shape of D. Okay, so we're starting also to move horizontally so that we can take advantage of the fact that the guitar has got 3 octaves and a half. So the way these are all designed in G in this case, so we kind of keep a consistency from that point of view. And of course there is the scale going down and then up in the other shape and vice versa, but also a bunch of exercises which are designed for you to learn how to move shapes across any string. So what I mean is, from the exercise 3 onward, you will have shift on the second string, shift on the third string, shift on the fourth string, shift on the fifth string, okay? So that you learn, it's not necessarily when you learn. I mean, it's like when you're playing, you really don't want to think about this. I think that's the entire idea. That is the idea for me. When we're playing, forget about all this and just have fun. So you don't want kind of limitation as much as possible to get in the way of you enjoying playing. So exercise 1 and 2 deal simply with maybe you ascending with one shape and descending with the other. An example of this, let's do this to a metronome, would be, say, G, okay? Stable sound, sorry. Distortion on. So that's all G, right? And again, you can move it chromatically, right? E flat. The second exercise is simply a reversed version of this, where you're going down with the, say, shape of D, you're coming back with the shape of E. Just to have, all possible kind of permutations in this case. G sharp, so A flat. And so forth and so on. At this stage, we're not yet doing intervals, studies for this, because I think they're going to be much more interesting when we have all 5 shapes and we can literally develop those studies horizontally and diagonally across them. But before we end up with this practice section of the video, 3 notes per strings. I need to recharge the batteries of the camera and then move it back in a second. As we've seen in the theory section of the video, the fact of connecting these 2 shapes also gave light to the emergency. I don't know if that's the word. Anyway, it came to light. Also, this approach, I call it 3 notes per strings, might have a better name, but All I'm saying here is that we can also perform shapes in 3 notes per string. In this case, we noticed 2 of them in this particular section that we're studying at the moment. The first one is, and the second one is. Why do we want to study these 2? I mean, first of all, because there is a symmetry to it and geometry to it, especially when it comes to right-hand picking. So they kind of facilitate some degree of pattern playing. The shapes we've done so far, at some point, always encounter 2 notes on a string, right? There you go. Which kind of reverse the picking, right-hand picking, which again is not a bad thing, but I'm just saying it can be interesting. If you have the time, you might want to look into that too. And of course, there are some very basic exercises on the PDF. So let me put the trusty metronome on. This time, because we're doing 3 notes per string, just for simplicity, I'm doing it in triplets. Just now on the PDF are actually written in 16ths, which makes it more interesting. But just for the sake of, again, not a too long video. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the reverse version, no? That's the other shape. That's fairly easy, okay? As I said, they have it's good patterns, okay? Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see how the accents are shifting compared to the metro? That's what makes it interesting. Just for me. Or reversed. Play any combination. As I say, there is like a constant picking patterns, and that's the interesting part about it, in my opinion. I compiled a few patterns that you can practice. There is tons of them, especially online, for this technique. Do I suggest that you study everything in this technique? Well, if you want to, yeah, absolutely. If this is the approach that you use the most, and I know a lot of rock and metal players tend to prefer it. Write your tabs. And I know some people are already doing it because I got some very nice messages about it, where you're rewriting all the intervals and so forth. The reason I prefer the other systems, so shape of E, shape of D, and all that, is because it allows me to see better the relationship in between the chord, the scale, and the arpeggio. Just a personal preference. Okay, but I still like interjecting this too into my playing. Okay, so let's just give you a quick brief on what these exercises are. I try and put together some that looked interesting to me. Okay, so let's do it in 16ths. Okay, like in the PDF. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be exercise 3. Then you have the reversed version. Okay, and backwards almost. Very close. Same thing on this other shape, right? course, these exercises can they lend themselves, say, to legato type of exercises, I'm pretty sure. Exercise number 5 includes a certain degree of string skipping. Again, legato if you want. Always useful. Exercise 6 is kind of interesting because it employs you can employ some degree of sweep picking applied to it, or some Fourier's alternate picking, and it deploys on group of 3 strings. I'll do it slowly so you see what I mean. And actually it combines the 2 shapes, by the way. Let me put a drone in G so you can hear it against it. So you have it's an interesting approach, an interesting sound. Pattern can also be interesting. And that's exercise 9. Exercise 10, let me see, because I just wrote them, it's not that this can be also interesting. Once again, and backwards, obviously. Let's see. This other one, I actually wrote it in octave higher because it's quite stretchy, but I found it interesting. On the BDF, I wrote it out here, okay? Because it's easier. So, exercise 12 and 13 are interesting for kind of different reasons. Let me take this distortion away for a second. Exercise 12, because it kind of uses 3 notes, 3 strings at a time, and can be good to expand on maybe sweep picking exercises. I'll do it slowly and you see what I mean. exercise 13 focuses on octaves in the sense that this is the same as this, an octave higher, same as this, an octave higher. So you have this kind of exercise. Octave, octave. Exercise 14 is also interesting for a different reason. I tried to design some strings, 6 strings pattern, 1 note per string, so that you have maybe some large sweep picking kind of possibility. I came up with this. Of course, again, you can do your own. If you know, these are just me looking for patterns in a way. This. And the second shape is this. And of course also the reversed version. I put together like maybe 8 different examples for this, so that we are connecting the 2 shapes with it. Something like... As you can see, this is very much like pattern playing, right? I don't have particular concern about harmony right now. I just want to try things that might work in a pattern. That's generally what I'm looking for in this kind of 3 notes per string thing. Harmony, I see it in the arpeggios and the normal shapes. So this concludes this part. I mean, it's like this particular lesson, I feel like I'm kind of skimming through stuff. I don't feel like I probably spend the right amount of time on anything. But as I said, this is 21 pages of a PDF, so if I even try to demonstrate all of them, this would take quite a long time. Okay? My recommendation is, since we have now the road is kind of some sort of a crossroad, because we're adding a second shape, we're practicing the same thing in 3 different ways. We're practicing the shape itself, so shape of D, and all this, everything that goes with that, all the intervals, the same that we've done in lesson 1, right? But also we're starting to practice moving across key vertically, and also same key horizontally. So for as long as you understand the logic, digest it a little bit at a time. Of course, study the shape itself, the first 8 pages first. That's very important, okay? Before you start even connecting the two. That's kind of obvious. Take your time, okay? Definitely, like, your playing will improve, okay? There is no, and on top of that, I'm pretty sure that each one of you will do it in a personalized manner. My approach to the 3 notes per string, as you can see, is very much kind of pattern oriented. So see if you want to develop your own patterns. And as I said, online there is really a lot of them. So maybe, I'm sure the one I kind of came up with or have been done, would not be surprised if they are. I'm just trying to get a mentality across, again, the logic. Now let's look at we have a lot of practice. Let's look at the playing side, okay? So we come to the best part, right? The playing. Not that I don't like practicing, but of course I like playing better, and it doesn't. We're gonna devise 3 kind of way we can try and apply straight away whatever it is that you learned from this lesson. So say if you practice just the scale and say seconds and thirds intervals, try and apply that in your playing straight away. So first of all, we're just going to practice the shape, so the first 8 pages. Again, we can do it with a loop or with a drone. Let's do it with a loop. So in this case, I'm looping F. Anything that you feel like, spend more time than this. As I said, this video is going to be rather long already, so another exercise obviously is the one related to the vertical execution. So now we're going to be using two kind of keys at the same time. In this case, I'm going to bounce in between an A flat and F. Let me loop this. So A flat, F. Now I guess you see why I liked that kind of progression. It's very musical. A flat. Dramatic, sorry for that. So, hey, spend, I don't know, 1 hour on this. It's actually fun. I like this interval. It's a flat 3 interval. So basically we're playing. Right? It's just that we're staying vertical. Now, the third exercise that we can do instead regards page 18 on the PDF. So we're looking at the same key, so G and G, and we're just trying to exploit the connection. So moving across a larger section on the neck and see where we can go with that. And of course, in that we can also throw the 3 notes per strings kind of things. In this case, I'm going to record chords. More sophisticated ones, let's say. I'm going to borrow them basically from lesson 3 when it comes to the shape. I'm also going to start adding some less common ones and reversed. And we will see this, I guess, lesson 6 when we do chords in the shape of D. Anyway, let's see what we can do with that. And anyway, as I said, I enjoyed this part in a way better, but this part is only development of having practiced all the words before, right? So all those exercises are words, and this is the alphabet. So in the first lesson you learned letter A, now you learned letter B. All those intervals, triads, etc. exercises are now you're creating words, little words, which hopefully in time become phrases. These are like fourths. I like them. These are just fourths, and I'm pretty sure you can hear the fact that it doesn't necessarily sound like an exercise now. Okay, this will be an exercise. Yeah. Who's gonna play a song like that? Okay, but already this, which is kind of almost like an exercise. A little bit less, so it's a bit like more geared towards phrasing. In the very first lesson, I mentioned that I was going to mention some websites, some channels on YouTube that I find it interesting, and I'll do that in a second. And so this is it for this lesson. As always, it's been a pleasure, and it's a lot of arguments, trying to condense them in a reasonably short amount of time. So if something is confusing or not being clear enough, or I made a mistake, because it's possible. I have some notes in front of me, but it's not that this is far from rehearsed, obviously. Just leave questions in the comments if you feel like, and when I have time, as usual, I'll answer them with pleasure. So I mentioned in the first video that I was gonna highlight some YouTube channels which I personally find very interesting. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. The first one has to be Uncle Doug. I think the name of the guy is Doug. His channel deals with amplifiers, particularly valve amplifiers, but not only. I mean, schematics, how to read them when it comes to valve amps, vintage valve amps, even how to build them, maintenance, you name it. Uncle Doug is amazing. I just love the guy. I love how informative his channel is. I envy his attention to details, his craftsmanship. I cannot speak highly enough. And probably some of you already know that channel. If you don't, as I said, it's not necessarily strictly guitar related. I mean, it's about amplifier. I like valve amplifiers. I actually landed on his channel. I was looking for something else, as a matter of fact. This was a while ago, actually. I do build my own guitar pedals, so I was looking for, some knowledge on schematics and all those things. And yeah, I mean, definitely, you might want to start in his videos, you might want to start from the beginning and not necessarily from the last one. If you are into electronics at all, obviously, have a look at, because when it comes to amplifier, I think he really knows his things. And as I say, this craftsmanship is fantastic. Attention to details, and it's got a very nice sense of humor, which makes it even nicer. So I don't know the guy. I'm not promoting his page. I'm actually doing it because I think it's very informative, and this is the spirit also of what I'm doing. So why not? So you might want to check it out. I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Obviously, you also find a link to the PDF. Enjoy. I know it's a lot of stuff. I'm pretty sorry, but I say take your time. I do practice that stuff too. I mean, it's like, again, enjoy the process. Soon is Easter, so obviously I wish everybody happy Easter at this very difficult time. I guess a lot of us won't be able to spend it with our own family. At least I know that I will not. Of course, thanks to Skype and Zoom and all these things, I'll be able to talk to them at least. So, again, stay at home if you can, and practice guitar, play guitar. Don't forget the ratio 1-to-1. Spend some time practicing, and then whatever you practice, try and apply it. Okay, your phrasing is gonna benefits from it, and you're gonna enjoy yourself. Don't forget to enjoy the process. Don't look at it all. You're just learning guitar. That's why the name of this channel. You're learning guitar. I am learning guitar. So it's been a pleasure as always. Next lesson obviously is going to be shape of D, and we're going to look at the arpeggios. So it's going to go parallel to lesson 2. Okay, see you next time.